Right. The room is almost full, and I appreciate your curiosity because I believe that this topic right now really requires all the attention. It has attention, I think, in global boardrooms, in the government, because it's about resilience. And it's about resilience in Europe in the battery value chain. We can not only talk about the cell manufacturing step, which is important, but eventually the dependency that we have on China goes across the chain up to the mine. And this is what we're going to discuss. Shortly on my side, I'm senior advisor to InnoEnergy since I retired from BASF, where I built the battery materials business with a focus on cathodes. So I have a little bit an idea of what we are talking about, but I have somebody else who has probably much more insights than I, and this is Emma Nerenheim. And Emma will give a short impact statement before I introduce this distinguished panel. Emma is right now with InnoEnergy leading the European Battery Alliance. She also takes oversight of InnoEnergy's portfolio, which is significant also in the battery value chain. And we have interesting companies which address the upstream that we are going to talk about. And formerly, Emma, you were, I think, doing the upstream and the backward integration of Northvolt as part of the management board. And with that, please give us your insights, and then we take it from there.
Thank you. Can you put on mic number 7? Is it on? Thank you. So hello, everyone. I'm here to talk about one of the most important topics in this value chain, of course. It's the raw material, it's recycling and all of that. The main difference between a combustion engine car and an electrical vehicle and the sustainability of those cars lies in the raw materials. And why is this? It's because they are elements. So fundamentally, they cannot be transformed into carbon dioxide, which, of course, hydrocarbons can. So keep that in mind. This means that the way we use these elements and the fact that they are elements and can be recycled means that there is very little limitation to how much we can slash the impact on the environment. But this also means that if we don't do it right, if we use mining in the same way as we have used the combustible fuels in the past, we will face the same challenges. We will build ourselves into an ecosystem that is not sustainable, that will create a legacy for the future generations, and that we have to clean up. And I can tell you this because in my time in Northvolt, I built recycling, but I was also responsible for the raw material value chains. And this means I visited the northern Siberia, I visited the DRC, I visited Indonesia. I've seen all the mines, and I know there's a huge difference between the good ones and the not so good ones. It means carbon dioxide, but it also means social impact. It means the rights of humans and the rights of labor. So it's a lot of things that we build into the topic today. And then the question is, okay, we're not talking about this too much. We're working incredibly hard to build a cell manufacturing-based industry. Do we really have time for this focus? Yes, we do have time for this because it's so important. And also, building cell manufacturing, we know, is incredibly complex and hard, and we have to build competency and all of that to meet up. And it's the same for this part of the value chain, but Europe has a strong and long tradition of process industry. We know chemical engineering, we know process engineering, and we know how to make mines productive. The most productive mine in the world is actually a Swedish mine. So it's not about low salaries. It's not about slashing the environmental footprint. It's about making sure that we do it right and that we do it produce materials in a productive way, high yields, and with the optimization. And I strongly believe that both with cell manufacturing and with raw material manufacturing, and cathode manufacturing. We can do this, the most profitable industry on this planet, once we have reached the base industry. Because this we do well in Europe. So, with that said, Peter, I hand back to you, and I hope that you introduce the panelists.
Yes, I will. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So Emma set us up, and right now I come to the distinguished panel. And let me break the order a little bit, because the first one I would like to call out is Franz Geyer, because without the automotives pulling it and driving electromobility, we won't have that value chain. So Franz Geyer, please come on stage. Franz is head of strategy and technology in BMW for the powertrain. That includes definitely the drivetrain for electromobility, Franz. And Franz is, I think, known to probably many of you. He's very active also in many of the relevant associations. Welcome, Franz. So the midstream and the upstream materials for the battery value chain need a cell manufacturer, because it's not directly ending in a car, it's ending in a cell. And we have one of the hopes on the panel in Europe, and that's the CEO of ACC, Jan Vincent. Jan, please come on stage. And Jan, you're leading this since 5 years. And before, he has been executive in PSA, responsible for production and supply chain. So I think you have a lot of experience and can give us your insights. Welcome, Fran. Welcome, Jan. Now, in the center of this panel is also the financing part, and that is Antoine Trösch. He is the CEO for now Demea Invest, previously known to many of you maybe as Demeter. And Demeter is long known as a private equity investor in infrastructure and energy. And Antoine is also setting up the Sustainable Battery Materials Fund, which has been announced last year, which has the focus of investing in the topic that we discussed today. Welcome, Antoine. If you talk about resilience and dependency, the first topic that comes is graphite. And graphite has, in the entire battery value chain, the highest dependency from China. 99%, there's basically no world-scale production plant outside China. There is a facility in Japan, and we have a relevant representative from that facility. It's run by Resonac, and I would like to welcome Cesar. He is the CEO for that business. Cesar, yes, please applause. He is the CEO for that business, maybe known to you formerly, Showa Denko. It came with the technology from Hitachi, and you're running this as the first European out of Spain, Cesar. Welcome. And the last panelist right now is Thomas Fahner. Thomas, welcome. And you're representing a startup where energy is also invested, Pure Battery Technology. You're the CEO of the European operations of PBT, and have an exciting technology where you take out steps in the flow sheet. We need innovation to compete. You have one, and it addresses the refining and recycling of nickel. So, welcome, Thomas. And by the way, I need to mention one thing. He's a 3-time Olympic medalist, so we will also talk about competitiveness. Thomas, I think you know how to compete, right? Thank you. So, let me start out, and certainly everybody of you want to give a little bit perspective from your point of view out of what you're doing, can also feed in kind of the key of your activities. Let me start with you, Franz. As I mentioned, this value chain works when the automotive industry is pulling it. How do you look at the importance of the topic the potential financing gap, the lack of capacity build-up, where are we and how does that kind of impact BMW's strategy in EVs?
So many thanks to be part of this amazing panel and all the great speakers here. I think it's well known that BMW is committed to electromobility, and we as a team, we really strive for the best solution on the market because, as Thomas is very well known for competitiveness, we are known for competitive too. So driving pleasure is in our brand name. And we see electromobility as a driving pleasure option. And what we also would like to have is, due to this, let's say, new tensions in the world, and we are striving since years for it, and we've been a lot talking to Emma in her former job, and with you as well, to really establish a European supply chain able to deliver, and we never stopped pushing this. We will not stop, we will continue, and we have to, and I think there are many ingredients that in the end will lead to a success, but financing is definitely one of it, and we are happy seeing that this SBM is coming, and happy to contribute. Yeah.
Thank you, Franz, and let me pass on to the next step in the value chain, Jan. What is your take on the topic?
Well, I mean, I'm going to start with the reason why we were created. We were created 5 years ago to build a European champion for engineering and production of automotive batteries. And this starting point meant that the European car manufacturers had understood that if they were not developing a European supply, they will become at some point of time in the sole hands of Chinese suppliers, to be very, very simple. And from that perspective, it would be a major threat for them. So that's the reason why we were created 5 years ago, and that's still our vision for the future. Having said that, it's clear that being sovereign has implications over the whole value chain, not only the cell manufacturing, but obviously has implications on the raw materials, on the mines. And beyond what has been described by Emma in her introduction on the environmental footprint, on the social footprint of this supply chain, I would say that it's absolutely paramount that we can rely on a European supply chain for innovating, because if we don't have the raw material suppliers close to us, we'll be in very big difficulties to innovate, to bring new solutions to the market. So from that perspective, it's of utmost importance. And the second point is obviously a geopolitical concern. Was mentioned in the introduction that almost 100% of the graphite is refined in China. I mean, do you see the risk we are facing? So from those three perspectives, environmental and social footprint, contribution to the R&D, mitigation of the geopolitical risk, we need a European-based supply chain.
Very clear statement. I think, Antoine, this must be music in your ears because the framework is set, the fund is there. How do you look at it, and when do we see more investments in Europe?
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, let's turn this music into money, maybe. First, let me, many of you know Demeter, and now we have grown bigger, and we're probably one of the largest private equity firms in clean tech, in green innovation. And I think that's good news for most of the topics. And I will also try to start by zooming out, by telling you a little bit before digging into the battery value chain and our project, by telling you a few trends on private equity, because private equity has been super trendy in the last 20 years for financing innovation, for financing the economy. 25 years ago, 30 years ago, you wanted to take a company to IPO. You had different drivers, and thanks to God, they still exist for financing R&D. Large corporates still continue to invest into R&D, and that's good news. But these days, let's face it, there's less money that is coming into innovation coming from private equity. Plenty of reasons for that, but we need collectively to help that money continue to come, be it directly in the companies that you represent, or be it into funds like the one we manage. I give you a figure. It was given yesterday. Investment in clean techs have divided by half, by a factor two. It's not that bad because we're at the level of 2021, so we are not back 15 years ago. And another figure which is important is when you look at private equity firm, less than 10% of the asset under management goes into the green transition. Now it goes to AI, as we know, it goes to healthcare, it goes to biotech, and that's good news for the economy, less good news for us. So we need to collectively act. We need the support of large corporates. We need the support of the supply chain. So I wanted to start with that. Having said that, we share the same vision on that panel. We need that battery value chain. So we decided with InnoEnergy to launch what is called the Strategic Battery Materials Fund. So a fund dedicated to both upstream, so from the raw materials to the active materials, and also to recycling of those metals we are going to use in our batteries. We're in the process of raising money. What we see, and that's good news, is that lots of public money is coming, lots of government money. Despite the adverse environment for the government, there's still lots of money that can come directly into your companies or into funds like ours. But we need the support of private financial institutions. And here I mean the pension funds, the banks, the insurers. We need to convince them that this is an asset class that is world class, if I may say. And I'll talk later about what we do exactly with the projects and with the corporates that support us. But I wanted to deliver that message first.
Thank you, Antoine, and I hope he made you curious about a bit more details that we will discuss. Maybe not details, but eventually you invest in projects, and we have two representatives here that have kind of real projects that you are driving, and maybe first one on your side, Cesar, graphite, I mentioned it. The biggest dependency. You have the technology in your hands, sort of, in the company, I understand. Where does it take you, and when do we see capacity on the ground?
So thank you, first of all, to InnoEnergy for the invitations. I think it's a pleasure to be here. So I learned very quick in my career. So if somebody asks you about money, you need to start with a story, and in order to connect to what I'm going to say yesterday, let me also explain a little bit what is Resonac and what we are doing here, and what is our project. Basically, Resonac, it is a graphite producer, so I'm the CEO of the graphite business unit. Some years ago, Resonac was a merger of two companies. One was Showarenko and the other one was Hitachi Chemicals. Showarenko had an experience of more than 100 years producing graphite electrodes, so it is a graphite electrode company. So basically, Showarenko was producing graphite before anybody in this room was already born. So, and since then, we have produced more than 7 million tons of synthetic graphite. So we know we are far away from being a startup, so we are at the other side. So also from Hitachi, we have 25 years of experience also producing battery, graphite. And I think probably today there are already cars with our graphite, running in every street in all the major, economies. So Basically, I mean, the message, and I took from the keynote in this morning, you know, we talk about scalability, I mean, how to scale up projects, and also how to do it quick. So January this year, Resonac decided to put together these two businesses under the graphite business unit. So we have the experience of 100 years doing graphite, and we have the technology from Hitachi to actually develop the next generation of battery material. So what is our project right now? We have this production in the 3 main regions for graphite electrodes. And now for the first time, our project is really to go to a fully integrated plant for battery anode material in Europe, actually in Spain, in Coruña. Why there? You know, because we have a production site for graphite electrodes since 65 years. And basically, in the times we are right now, we wanted to, let's say, start brownfield, because if you do not have a, let's say, a brownfield platform to start up, I mean, the capex and the time to get to market would be actually too long. So that is the reason why we decided to start in that way. Talking about financing, so our mother company committed to finance our project until 7,000 tons. So this is what we define the minimum viable product. So we will produce by 2028 7,000 tons of this material in Europe. And basically from there, how to scale up to the next levels, 30, 60, 90,000 tons. Then probably we need to talk about money in a different way, but this is where we are right now, and this is what is our project about.
Thank you. And what you just said, I think, resonates with me looking at the industry. There's lots of companies that are ready now and have the minimum viable product. And it's the financing that Antoine will and others can address. It's ready for scaling. Thomas, to my understanding, your technology has also advanced, and it addresses maybe something that we should also address here in the panel, the competitiveness. I introduced you as a competitor because the value chain certainly is under pressure from low Chinese prices. It hits you on the graphite side, it hits you. How do you cope with this?
First, to frame it rapidly, what we're doing, we are an Aussie-based company, and we're in the midstream, we are refiners, and we came to Europe because we developed a technology that's a spin-off of the University of Queensland, and I will come back to what Emma said. There's a lot of company here with a lot of knowledge, with a lot of potential, that actually can help us moving forward. And what we're seeing here in that environment at Inno is just an example of what can be done or what we should use to leverage moving forward. We came with our technology to Europe because we are in a dirty business. What we take is basically the ore that comes out of the mines, and we're refining into what's called pre-CAM, precursor cathode active material. That's what the BASF, or the Chinese, use to put in their cathode material. So it's a dirty industry. What we do it in a way that is competitive, and it's very clean. We reduce CO2 footprint by almost 80%. We have no water issues. And most and foremost, what I want to say is we are competitive, and we can compete with the Chinese here in Europe. Our process is so good that actually we can produce at import prices, which is tremendous, which puts us in a position in the value chain where actually we can compete with the Chinese. Now, that raises a couple questions. If we want to be successful, there's a value chain all the way to the midstream that is controlled by the Chinese indirectly. There's barriers to entry. There's also OEMs, and I'm putting that to you, Franz, also. If we want to have that successful, we need first strategically a willingness to do that. So the players along the value chain need to be a bit to that and willing to take some risks with those startups. We need to have also a player level field where basically we compare apple to apples. An imported product from China is not the same as a product that's produced in Europe, and we need to be clear on that. Also on all the dimensions, Emma mentioned everything that has to do with environment, social compliance, and so on and so forth. And the third part where we need to be competitive is the financing. The financing, when you're small companies, when you grow, first you need cash because you burn cash, you're on the staff, you're on the resource. But also, you need to have the the means to it. For example, for us, when we scale up, what we do have is we raise, like, let's say, 120 million. We're too big for venture capital, and looking at the risk portfolio for venture capital, that's where we would fit in. But if we go to private equity, the problem is we don't have the security in there. So there is a gap here that also, to some extent, let's say the governments have tried to help with support, with grants, though that also comes with some issues of timing, how much time it takes, and so on. It's not that easy. So what I would say, what we need is something that's flexible, fast, and applicable very quickly. The Chinese, they just go to their bank and they just take 100 million. And the Americans are right now with their new fund, they're leveraging off 250 billion with Wall Street. There's going to be a lot of money flowing in there. So we have to look at how we're going to stay competitive.
Wow. Antoine, you
Yeah, can I take on that? The fact that, Thomas, you talk about leverage is super important. Basically, what we are trying to do with the fund, it's a 500 million fund, equity fund. We are looking at 50 projects like yours. We probably will do 15, 20, not all 50 projects. These 50 projects, if they really come to life, go to full production, sign off takes with the rest of the value chain, if they deliver the quality, we discussed that a lot with Jan, they represent 50 billion of investments. And when you look at the objectives, we won't be totally independent, and there's a question of cost competitiveness and resilience, but with those 50 billion, we'll be in a better position than without those 50 billions. So with 500, millions, we are not going to do those 50 billions of capex, but like you said, there is a lot of leverage, and we are not taking hold of it. At Demeter, at DEMEA, 90% of our assets under management come from pension funds, insurance, like I said, only 10% from corporates or government money. We have to do that in the battery value chain. Which means we are trying to raise 100, 150 with government money. Actually, we have more than that. Some support with the industrial players, but we need to convince those guys to come into us, and then we are able to finance you. On what you said, maybe we are fools at DEMEA, but it's true. There is a gap between the VC funds and the infra funds, and we position the fund exactly during that gap. It will be up to us to demonstrate that still it's relevant. And actually, I'm not going to bother you with that, but when you look at the math of the value creation of projects like yours, for an equity investor, the best moment to invest is exactly where you are. If you invest as pure infra, then yeah, you have your yield of 8-10%, and it's good. If you invest in VC, of course, the risk is tremendous. If you invest where you are, the multiple is pretty good, and it's a fantastic thing that we can do for the value chain. So yeah, we are trying to bring that message to you. I know that you are convinced, but we need to collectively bring that message to the outer financing world.
Oh, that's great. And I think the financing for scaling, as you just said, Antoine, it is a challenge in Europe after VC. And that's why we have that fund, and addressing that gap will help us going forward. Franz, you were also addressed by Thomas, and I know you have, if I may say, you have direct access to the boardroom of BMW. How do you look at it?
So of course we are in cooperation with Thomas' company, and we are really looking at it. But I think all of that has been said. We are aligned. We are focused for Europe. We have catalytic money, and we have knowledge. I think what we also need to do now, after all the lessons learned, is not leapfrogging anybody, because it will not happen. But we have to look what it is about that we need to come from Europe to Europe. That's the first step. And for us as OEMs, it's very important not to only have from Europe to Europe, because we will face a tremendous competition in Europe too, as you just said, Jan. But we also are used to compete outside of Europe. So we also need to qualify ourselves to be competitive outside of Europe, and this is the goal. And if we look back, China is a LFP country, region, or region, yes. We as Europeans are more an NMC region because we were striving for range anxiety, compete with combustion engine and so on. Looking what we probably need to be this competitive, where is this competitiveness in the future? And I think it remains in the NMC business because this offers the range, it offers also synergies, it offers a high value in recycling. And if we just speak a bit in the chemistries, we probably get also design to cost chemistry, which can come from Europe to Europe. Because I think if we start now going on this low-cost chemistry coming from China, we will not reach the same price tag in Europe. And the question is which price tag this will be and what can an NMC, mid-NMC compared deliver with all the benefits that we just had, experience. We have also a lot of patents, we have process technologies, we have a few examples, very good ones, small plants that need to be fertilized to get to the European champions. But I think this is the ingredients we would like to give. And of course we are in connection and we will remain.
I take this statement, thanks Franz, as also clarity in saying pick your battles, right? Build on the strengths that you start to establish here. Don't try to do everything. And Antoine said there's anyhow not enough money eventually out there because the challenge is so huge. So I think we need to be smart in what we are doing. Jan, one of the business models in China of a cell manufacturer is squeeze the supply chain. That's how it works. The bill of materials is extremely meaningful for a cell manufacturer next to getting the operations right. What else is missing that we see more projects, and how do you look at it?
Well, I would simplify our needs. Our needs are very simple. We want the safety of a European supply chain. We want the prices of Chinese suppliers. That is as simple as that. And that's where the dilemma is, because for a number of reasons, Chinese prices are lower than the European ones because of lower energy costs, because of higher subsidies, because of the fact that they're working more than in Europe. So for a number of reasons, they are cheaper than we are. How are we going to turn that dilemma? I'm convinced that we can't escape from protecting Europe. Protecting Europe thanks to a growing local content. If we don't have a growing local content, we're dead. We're dead. Because I mean, the European car manufacturers, they are under such a tremendous pressure. They are living a revolution which is really outstanding. They cannot afford European prices. They cannot afford. So to have a resilient European supply chain, I'm convinced that we need to set objectives in terms of local content. That's true for the cells, that's true for the raw materials, that's true for the cars.
Which is part of what we are advocating for when we represent as InnoEnergy the European Battery Alliance. Local content is a discussion that is currently ongoing, and it would certainly help. And Cesar, I guess also for you, graphite is so meaningful and important for the battery. What other ideas would you have other than local content, or how can we stimulate to accelerate the situation?
I mean, first of all, let me stress one point here. You know, this is, I think, also Thomas mentioned about the level playing field. You know, I mean, I think we need to start, you know, comparing apples with apples and pears with pears. You know, if I do a graphite, which we are doing, I mean, if we innovate to make a factory in Spain to produce a graphite with a 90%, lower CO2 emissions, and actually not using any hazardous materials, I mean, we expect that then somehow somebody in the value chain is valuing this material in a different way that you value the material from China, right? I mean, this is the first, the point number one. If at the end of the day, when I'm going to ask, money for my future steps, I mean, this is going to be, I have regional regulations for a global market. I mean, this will not work, I mean, if you create some regional regulations, you also need to secure, a regional supply and demand for the same product, and not for, and not to mix, apple with pears. And to me, I mean, that is a precondition to start talking about, a good finance, because in the future, if I could ask for money, I would need to plug a price of a kilogram of graphite, in my business plan. And what is this money? What is this value going to be? It is the market price for China today. So we are not really concerned about competing with China. I think we have the technology to be competitive and to even in cost. The question is whether we are comparing apples with pears. If Europe value, a lower CO2 emissions, you have to somehow to put it into the, into the equation. It is the CBAM a solution? I don't know. It looks like a solution. But by the way, just a reminder, graphite is not included into the CBAM. So CBAM will come, will protect other markets, steel, aluminum, but actually graphite, we are not there. So at the end of the day, is how the European Union and our regulators are going to ensure a level playing field. If this is not a given, so we will not have a discussion about financing. This will not come. So it's this is where we are right now.
Any voices to that from the panel?
I say a word about my previous life. I come from the nuclear sector, and I was CEO of the uranium enrichment business of Areva. And actually, it was a European venture. It dated from the 70s, where 6 countries, including Spain, decided to do it together. And actually, there is a partner and a company where UK, Netherlands, and Germany teamed up together. And 15 years ago, Russia was to nuclear what China is to Europe for batteries. And all utilities were telling us, yeah, we're going to buy Russian. It's way cheaper. They deliver the same product. They are super reliable. And it's absolutely true. And then in 2014, so 11 years ago, we told them you should decrease your share of contracts with the Russians. And they did that. And we said we will offer you the same price. This is where cost competitiveness is important. We said, let's put a bit of market price component, because if price increases for geopolitical reason, then it will not do harm to you, because you will pay market price and it will be better for us. And that's exactly what happened. Those contracts we signed in 2014, they enforced in 2021, exactly at the time when the war broke out. And I think we have to have those long-term vision. In that business I was steering, we invested 10 billion euro between 2005 and 2018 for now the security of supply for Europe. And here we are not talking about electricity. No one can turn out your electricity plants, but your materials, people can really play a geopolitical role, play with that. Of course, and honestly, in a few years when we reconvene, if we haven't delivered the quality, if we haven't revived our know-how in the chemical industry, and yeah, we won't be there yet. So we will try to play our part with the money. I think you will also play your part with giving time to this industry. Can't be revived in a few years. It's a 15, 20-year effort, and we all need to be aligned towards that.
Thomas?
Just to point, one thing we didn't address, but you start addressing, and I'm a little bit scared about what you say. When you're a small company, a startup, you don't have resources. But also one thing that's the most important, maybe more than money, is time. And specifically right now, in times of uncertainty, of volatility, some of the players are just waiting it out. And the bigger you are, the more you're waiting it out. And that is not good for small companies. We need to move forward, and speed is king. If we don't accelerate, even now we have an opportunity because we are in a down cycle. We can take opportunities of this, and we should move forward faster, all together here.
Thank you.
Don't get me wrong on speed. There was an announcement yesterday of a fund for Africa and Latin America, 1 billion fund. Last week, the US government announced a 5 billion fund that is going to leverage. And yeah, we need those funds and money, but yeah, it's on all of us.
It looks like time is running short, and maybe Franz, Jan, Cesar, any final wish, or what would be one of the key takeaways that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I can start again. I think the most important thing is we as Europeans have to help ourselves to be successful. It includes also the machinery and equipment manufacturing. When it comes to financing, for example, some of them invested millions but only had a turnaround of a few 100,000. And a second thing which I would like to contribute, next to the things that's already been said, and speed is king too, is we need a framework that is stable. Because finances are always looking what is the framework. The framework conditions are not stable, and this is also a key ingredient that needs to be put on the table soon, fast, that people like you and the other banks can really put the money and pave the way forward to get these companies successful.
Well, I would say first, sovereignty is a must in the whole value chain. Second, it has to be fueled by regulation to some extent, so local content we did mention. And the third point we didn't mention, we didn't speak of, but I'm convinced that we can observe that Asia is leading the pack. Asia might be significant ahead of us in numerous parts of the supply chain. Not all of them, I do agree, but we will be better off partnering with them. We will be better off doing in Europe what they did 20 years ago, 30 years ago, partnering with Western companies in order to scale up.
Cesar.
Maybe just a message. I mean, here, we are fighting here for this, for the European social model. You know, this is not an industry battle. I mean, we are fighting for the way we live. I think we all like to continue living in that way, and therefore we need to work together. The companies, we share values, right? And I think many of us, we are sitting in, in this table here. And basically, this is what should move us, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we can be competitive, we can make money with, but we need to work more as a team, right? And for those providing money, also or subsidies or financing other companies, I think a very important question it is also what are their suppliers, right? For any industrial company. Because I think more about your own plans. I mean, you will tell a lot about your company with whom you are working, you know. And I see many messages where people are very much going for, you know, Europe green and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, I think
the parallel session, Scaling Impact, Lessons from Industrial Cleantech, is starting now in breakout room 2. The parallel session, Circular Disruption, Turning Waste into Wealth, is starting now in breakout room 3.
Do we allow him to finalize?
Yeah. Just walk the talk, right? Just walk the talk and make sure that you're teaming with the right companies, and we will do the same. We are committed to Europe. We are committed to actually, a transition and a green Europe, and we will make sure that we partner with those that are also sharing our values. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Before I wrap up, can I have a hand for this wonderful panel and the insights that you gave us? So I hope you enjoyed it. You can only have a glimpse on the topic at such a panel. I think we got great insights across the value chain, and the takeaway is, for me, there is a commitment that we have, and if we don't have that, we cannot drive the chain. There's ideas out, there's a strengths, there's innovation. Probably an effort across all of us in partnership, in working also on the regulatory side. Financing is available for good projects. So let's see where we are when we reconvene next year. Thanks, guys.